right, we're back here at Bloggapalooza 2006. I'm here with Scott Piepho of Foes Akron Pages, which you can find at fosnorcapages.blogspot.net. .com, I'm sorry. Welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your blog.
My blog is based in Akron, hence the name, and it's a left-of-center blog, politics, policy, a little bit of law, a little bit of pop culture, a little bit of whatever is turning me on at the moment.
How long have you been blogging?
Almost exactly a year. I celebrated my blogiversary about a month ago.
How did you get started? What?
Well, how I got started is kind of just reading blogs and seeing that little blogger thing and just clicking on that and saying, wait a minute, this is, you don't have to pay anything, you can just go in and set something up. And around the same time, just seeing a niche. There was nobody blogging in Akron. I tend to be, I think, more pragmatic. I don't like to call myself more moderate, but more pragmatic than a lot of the big box bloggers and a lot of the sort of megaphone, backbench shouters, and really didn't see a whole lot of that going on. So I just thought, there's something I could do here that brings something new to the party. If somebody had been doing what I was thinking of doing, I would have just commented on that blog. But there was really nobody doing what I wanted to do. And so I got it going and eventually started getting some pretty good response.
You say that at the time, if someone had been doing what you were doing, you probably wouldn't be doing it the way you're doing it now. Do you see other people in Akron? Is the Akron blogosphere kind of expanding now, or is it still kind of?
No, it's expanding. There are people coming in. I think there are people coming in and finding out it's a lot of work, and then their blogs kind of stop getting updated. But there's Psychobilly Democrat started after I did, and they're doing a lot of really good work. It's really nice to kind of have that backstop and not feel like I've got to cover everything. There's a couple other people blogging out of Akron that have more or less my orientation and just, they have bigger day jobs and just kind of get to it when they can. And increasingly a good readership there as well.
You've been involved in the MeetTheBloggers.net project. How many of the interviews have you been in on, do you think?
I think it's 6 or 8, something in there.
What's your overall experience with it?
It's an extremely positive thing, and it just the fact that somebody who is running for Congress, and at this point probably somebody who's going to be my next representative, sat down and talked to me. And a bunch of bloggers has sat down and talked to me since then just because she liked some of my ideas and wanted to talk more. I think it's opening things up a little bit more as far as people talking to regular folks, and that's what Meet the Bloggers is that we're all regular folks. Some of us have credentials, but they're not sitting down with us because of credentials. They're sitting down with us, and none of us have like some power. None of us have like a bunch of votes in our back pocket or a bunch of money to give, and that's why they're talking to us. It's that we can get the word out on stuff, and we're interested in this sort of thing. I think, frankly, some people are just thrilled to have an interesting interview, and an interview that digs a little below the surface.
Have you found all of the candidates that you sat in on able to go deeper and go to that next level? I mean, or are they so... I have to believe for some of the people who go into these interviews, they're so used to giving the sound bites or the talking points that it's almost... there's a little bit of a curve there. They try to get into that mode where I can let my guard down and talk openly, and in a way that people are actually interested in what I have to say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that there is kind of a point at which something switches in the candidate's mind and says, wait a minute, I'm not. This isn't just sound bites. You know, I can't just go there. And I also had the experience. I blogged about it. I went down to an event that Sherrod Brown had where he announced an initiative down in Canton, and they opened the floor to questions, and none of the media have any questions, and so I had a question, and then we talked afterwards, and it's like, that was a really good question, and I thought it was like well, duh, next question.
What did the media folks say?
If they said anything, they certainly didn't write anything. And one of them seemed to be scribbling stuff down, because I asked him like 3 or 4 follow-up questions, and he answered all those as well. I think a lot of, there's people who get into politics for reasons that I don't necessarily, they like the prestige or they like the popularity. But there's a lot of good people that get into politics because they want to make a difference and they're interested in these things. And I think they're thrilled to have a room full of people that they can really talk about. They can say all those things that their campaign manager says. You can't say that, that's too complicated. Nobody's going to understand it. You're going to be talking over people's heads. You're going to make them feel foolish. And I think that they get excited about the fact that they can actually talk those things. And that certainly is my experience on the other side, is being able to have an interaction with a candidate that's something more than, hey, how you doing, I'm running for X.
Has there been one interview of the Meet the Bloggers ones that really stood out that you'll remember as the best that you sat in on, or was there a certain line of questioning that somebody handled particularly well, or you just found it consistently good?
I found it consistently good. I found it consistently compelling. I mean, there certainly have been places where, when you're talking about this, and it's just kind of my own thinking, there are a couple of almost sort of gotcha moments where somebody really sort of muffed something, and those are the ones that kind of stick out in my mind. And I don't want to accentuate those. Right. So I'm working overtime trying to think of something good. I'd say the one that was just fantastic beyond all bounds, and it wasn't a candidate, was John Green at the Bliss Institute. And we really could have sat down and talked to him for hours. He just has so much knowledge, so many interesting things to say. John Corlett from the Center for Community Change, Community Progress, still don't have it. Solutions, Center for Community Solutions was another one. Those are guys I really like to talk to, especially if they don't necessarily have a dog in a fight right now that they want to talk about, stuff. And one thing I talk about on my blog and that people have said to me is less horse race and a lot more policy. Mm-hmm. And that was part of what I set out to do. I love talking horse race, but I find it more valuable to talk policy. Part of it is talking policy, writing policy is a lot more work, which I think is one of the reasons that people write horse race more.
I was going to say, don't you get the sense that that's really what the mainstream, at least the writers in this town or in the state, really seem to focus on, is the horse race stuff. So, right. I mean, I think it's a nice, refreshing change to see people out there like yourself who are writing about issues. And
yeah. Well, and I mean, I can tell you, if you're writing about horse race, I mean, either you know certain rules of thumb, or you don't and you just make them up. I mean, horse race is, here's the numbers, let me pull something out of my butt about what they mean. And policy, you actually have to look stuff up and read it. And there's just nothing, if you make a prediction on what's going to happen in an election and you're just completely wrong, you just missed it by a mile, no big deal. But if you say something about policy and then somebody says, hey, you ought to read this study and this or this report and this thing says the exact opposite of what, you just feel like an idiot. And so you
have that happen to you?
Oh yeah.
All the time?
Occasion? It has happened, yeah. And there's just, when you're talking about policy, you're talking more about facts as opposed to predictions. And when you're talking about facts, you got to get your facts right.
Very good. Scott Piepho from Foe's Akron Pages, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of Bloggapalooza.